Now that we've got our design and our components, let's put them together. We've got the basic shape right here, but we still need to figure out the nitty-gritty details like which ports connect where and how we're supplying power to everything. First though, we'll need to power our Xiao board, which we can do by connecting our battery holder to these two pads right here on the bottom of our board. Soldering wires to them is pretty easy if you do it the smart way, which is to twist up the wires and then tin them, which means coating them in solder, and also tin the pads, which means adding a little mound of solder on them. Then you can just set the wire over the pad and press down with your iron and it'll make a near perfect joint. And yes, I definitely went with that plan the first try. We'll of course solder the other end of the wires to the battery compartment, noting the little plus or minus icon on this metal piece here to tell us which end is which. Now unfortunately, heating up the metal also heats up the plastic enough to pop this pad off of it and out of place. So I did have to use some hot glue to glue the pad back in place after I was done soldering, and while I was at it, I insulated both of the connections. Next, let's supply a ground line to all of our components that need it, which is actually all of our components. There are 7 of them, so since we can't fit 7 wires into one of these little holes, I'm going to start with just 3 wires, one of them super short, and I'll strip their ends with one of them a bit longer than the others, and then twist them together. Now, the longer, thinner part can slide easily through the hole, and I'll fit as much of this stripped section as I can through and then solder it up. Then I can connect 3 more wires to the short wire, bringing us up to 5 usable ground wires. Now, since the pad is so big, I'm going to have to solder 2 more wires onto it, and if there's any other way at all, please advise me in the comments, but I couldn't figure out anything else to do at this point. Next, I'll send power to all of our components that need a VCC connection. Thankfully, this is only 3 of them, so I'll twist together 3 red wires, one longer than the others, and solder them to the 3.3 volt port. Perfect. Now, we need to connect all of the data wires to their appropriate locations, and we have just a couple of restrictions, which thankfully all work out. Number 1, the MPU 6050 connects over I2C, so we'll need to use the SCL port 5 and the SDA port 4 on the Xiao to connect those ports to the MPU 6050, and the speaker requires a PWM port, which is any of the numbered ports except 0. So here's the pinout I went with, which you can follow if you want to keep the same port numbers I'll have in my code, but you can certainly just as easily change it up. Ports 0 through 2 will be the RGB LED control wires, and port 3 will be the IR LED, so let's cut wires that will reach all the way to the tip of the screwdriver, and then we'll need to connect the 2 RGB LEDs together by lining up their same length legs and then twisting them together. Make sure you do this right, because if you wire the green leg with the ground leg, it's not going to work. First, we'll solder the 2 longest legs, the ground legs, to one of the ground wires from earlier, and then we'll do port 0 as red, 1 as green, and 2 as blue. The IR LED is much simpler. We'll just connect the data wire from port 3 to the long leg and one of the ground wires to the short leg. Make sure to trim off the excess from all of these LEDs. While I do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the rest of the Sonic Screwdriver series. With the MPU 6050, we'll need to remove the pin headers from the board so we can solder wires in place of them. And after we do that, it's pretty straightforward. Just wire the red wire to VCC, the black wire to ground, and port 5 to SCL and port 4 to SDA. Make sure to get those right. Port 6 is going to my speaker, so I'll wire that to the side with the plus symbol, and the other side will get another ground wire. Now, the remaining 2 components each need a data line, a power line, and a ground line to work properly, so we need to get those in the correct order. Now, for the light sensor, we need to make sure that when there's no light coming through it, it isn't floating, which means receiving random voltages because there's nothing to tell it what its voltage should be. So we want it by default to be pulled down by a ground line through a resistor so we don't create a short. So we'll start by soldering a resistor to one of the legs, it doesn't matter which, this isn't polarized, and then we'll connect the data wire to the intersection of those, the ground wire to the resistor's other end, and the 3.3 volt wire to the light sensor's other end. This means the power is traveling through the sensor based on how much light there is, but the data wire is also connected to ground to prevent random values from coming in. This resistor just prevents a short from happening. For the IR receiver, we want to take it off of the PCB, but before that, we need to check which pin of the receiver goes where, because in my case, the rightmost pin on the actual receiver is power, the middle one is minus, and the left one is signal. They're not in the same order as these 3 pins, which is a little bit confusing, but if you check the traces, you can figure that out. Once we know that, we can solder our wires to the receiver, and we're ready to go. Now that it's all wired up, we're ready to program it and put it in a body. So let's do that in this video right here.